So what does it take to be consistent? You fall in love with the process. You understand that goals are finite. They're mile markers on the way up the mountain. And your life is the mountain. Consistency is built on the back of your vision.
No fluff, no gimmicks, just one actionable way to get better, physically, mentally, or emotionally. This is Daily Gains. Let's get after it.
All right, welcome to the Daily Gains. This is Chris. We're going to talk about consistency, one of my favorite subjects. All right, so because I like Google definitions, we're going to start with the Google AI definition for consistency. Conformity in the application of something, typically that which is necessary for the sake of logic, accuracy, or fairness. That is very dictionary. So consistency is doing the same thing no matter what. Very, very easy definition, I think. Now, what does it mean to be consistent? This is where we're going to get into some math, because I think the only way we can logically work through the phrase or the word consistency, or what does it mean to be consistent, is we have to understand that we're talking about averages over time. So a lot of people think consistency means 100% every single day we're going to hit our mark. Absolutely not. First off, we're not robots. There's no fucking way you're going to do the same thing all the time, every day, for the rest of your life. Now, you're going to breathe every day. You're going to blink every day. But we're talking about things you have to actively, intentionally put into your life. So let's talk about nutrition. This one's easy. We eat 3 times a day on average, 7 days a week. That's 21 meals a week. So if we talk about what is the average, 21 meals out of 21, you'd be 100%. If you eat 21 healthy meals out of 21 available meals, boom, you're at 100% accuracy. Now, what happens if you're 20 out of 21? Well, that's about 95%. 19 out of 21, it's 90%. 15 out of 21, 71%. 10 out of 21, we're less than 50%. We're landing right at 47.6, so 48%. The question is, what side of the average do you fall on? If we want growth and we want change and we want to develop as a human, we have to understand that consistency is averages for the negative or the positive. If I want to change my physique and I want to dial in my nutrition, I need to be as close to 100% as possible with my dietary nutrition processes. So if I have 21 meals planned, I need to get as close as I can to eating those 21 planned meals. Every time I take time off, say I hit 20 out of 21, I have a 95% possible success rate and a 5% failure rate, which means I will go the opposite way. Now, what if we're hitting 10 out of 21? We're at a whopping 48%, meaning you have a 52% chance of achieving a negative or opposite outcome of what is desired. And I want you to think about that seriously. If we have goals set for ourselves, I don't care if it's weight on a bar, I don't care if it's weight lost, weight gained, whatever. Consistency is a game of averages. Label your averages, label your outcome desired, i.e. 21 meals a week of a certain nutrient density or 6 hours in the gym, whatever, and then measure it. How many hours did you actually go to the gym? How many great meals did you eat? How many meals followed your nutrition plan? How many didn't? And at the end of every week, you can give yourself the percentage and you can say, I was 18 out of 21. I hit a whopping 85%. Awesome. You still have a decent percentage of available failure. You're inviting that into your life. So I think it's hard because we tend to label consistency as I'm going to be 100% with this. I'm always consistent. You're not. Like I said, you're not a robot. But it's much easier if we get to the end of the week and we give ourselves our actual percentage. Now, numbers make me happy because they're a great, quick way to show you where you're headed. I want to always give myself some kind of framework, some kind of roadmap for myself, what's going on, what's happening in my daily activities, and based on those activities, where am I headed? For some quick numbers, we'll use nutrition and training here. You really only need 4 to 6 hours of training a week. Now, 6 hours is a lot. I get that. 4 hours really isn't. Most of us watch 20 plus hours of Netflix a week. I think we can spare 4 hours at the gym. Now, you can break that up into 30s if you want. I prefer 4 1-hour training sessions. I think that's doable. It's logical. Gives you plenty of time to get warmed up, plenty of time to cool down, plenty of time to get embedded in the effort and feel the intensity. But you really don't need much more than that. So give yourself 4 hours as a plan, and at the end of the week, be realistic with yourself and truthful and say, well, how many hours did I actually go? And then you can give yourself a realistic expectation of where you're headed with said activity. If you go to the gym 1 hour in a week, well, that's a pretty shitty average. So I don't even have to explain that. But 3.5 hours out of 4, yeah, man, you're doing pretty fucking good. I'm okay with that. That's progress forward. Same thing with your meals. Eating 3 times a day, 21 meals a week. All you have to plan for is 3 hours a day. That's if it takes an hour to eat each time. You only have to plan 21 meals. 21 meals is not that big of a deal, especially if you do like we do, cook in the crock pot and stuff like that. I can knock out all of my lunches and most of my dinners in a couple hours on a Sunday. But it's easier to plan when we look at things holistically. Then we can stay more consistent because we're planned ahead. And it's easier to say, I already know what's going to happen because the outcome desired is so important that I went ahead and invested some time ahead of time to make sure that I don't deviate because I already have what I need available to me. You can do the same thing with the gym. You can do the same thing with work. Bring the things you need ahead of time so you're not saying, oh, I would have done that, but I didn't bring it with me. Just have your gym bag in your car. I know I bring an extra pair of shorts and a t-shirt, and I live 3 minutes from home. I do that because I don't want to deviate from the plan. And I know if I plan ahead, I won't have to. I'm removing the variables. So I think it's really important to reframe the word consistency into averages. So I went ahead and asked the Googler another question. I said, now, because it told me what consistency was, I asked it, what does it take to be consistent? The Googler AI said, focus on small, achievable goals, developing routines, and consistently working towards them even when motivation is low. I think it's hilarious when you ask Google a question and it uses the word in the definition. But yeah, I think it hit the nail on the head. Focus on small, achievable goals, i.e. giving you something to feel the accomplishment of achieving something. Developing routines. Routines are paramount. Intentional action creates habitual action. And consistently working towards them even when motivation is low. Meaning motivation is fleeting. It will leave you. You can only watch so many David Goggins videos before you're like, ah, fuck it, I've seen this one. This guy's crazy. And it doesn't motivate you the same. It only takes one text from a loved one to absolutely ravage your day. So motivation is fleeting, and understand that consistency has to be the higher average no matter what. So motivation is just part of the gas on the fire. The fire doesn't go out, but sometimes it makes it burn hotter. Now, in my personal opinion, what it takes to be consistent is you have to be process focused, not goal focused. So in my personal opinion, to be consistent, or what it takes to be consistent, is you have to be process focused, not goal focused. Reason I say that is a process is a never-ending thing. I'm going to constantly work on this process. I wake up in the morning and drink coffee and read books because I'm working on myself, and one great way to do that is an hour of reading every morning. That's just part of the process. Do I have it written down in goals? Not anymore. It was at first, but once I achieved it, I stopped reading. Once I read for 30 days every morning, I got to 30 days and I'm like, fuck yeah, I killed it. 31st through the next 30 days, I didn't read at all because it wasn't part of my process. It was a goal of mine. And once I achieved my goal, that finite thing in front of me, I was done. But then I realized I needed that time in my life. I needed that 1 hour in the morning. I needed my books. I needed my personal development time. I needed my journaling time. So I said, you know what, man? This is just something I'm going to do. This is just part of being Christopher Ewing, living the life I live and doing the things that I do. So because it became part of the process, I could set different goals for myself and view those goals differently. Instead of the goals as this is the defining moment in my life or the thing I'm striving towards, and then being disappointed when you get there, because that happens every fucking time. You might be elated for a little bit, but once you buy the new car and take it around the roundabout a couple times, you get bored or you get used to it. And then you set another goal for a little bit higher. I'm okay with that process in some things, but as far as personal development goes, and as far as you as a human, we need to be addicted to the process. We need to put ourselves in process development mode all the time. Goals are just mile markers on the way up the mountain. That is it. That is a proof that you're headed in the right direction. The way I can explain this the best is I'm on the track to bench press 500 pounds. I wanted to do that for years. So I haven't reached it yet. I'm getting pretty close. I haven't reached it yet. But I've set goals that I know if I'm following the correct process, these will be achievable. So the other day I went in, I'd followed 16 weeks of a process. At no point in time did I try to bench a single, which is as heavy as possible. And at no point in time did I deviate from the program. I spent 16 weeks working through the mountain method. 16 dedicated weeks following the programming, the rep schemes, the time off, everything. I came in the other day. I hit a 465 bench. Could have put more weight on the bar, but that was the goal, to bench 465 at the end of 16 weeks, because I knew if I could do that, I could go back to the process and continue growth. So yes, that was exciting. And yes, when I hit 5, because I know I will soon, that will be exciting. But there's always another goal, because the vision behind all of this is to be the strongest version of myself mentally, morally, emotionally, and physically. That's why the process was built. I'm going to continuously lift my whole life. So we view goals as just mile markers up the mountain. And we view consistency as an addiction to the process. But the vision behind the process has to be so clear, so valuable, and so profound that you don't have a choice but to constantly look for ways to learn, develop, and change. To be the best version of myself, the strongest version of myself, mentally, morally, physically, and emotionally, I don't have time to waste on things that are going to pull me down because they're moving me away from my vision and misaligning me with my goals. So consistency is built on the back of your vision. And my advice for looking at your life and trying to implement consistency is start adding some numbers to it. Plan ahead, 21 meals a week. Go to the end of the week. How many meals did I eat clean? How many meals did I eat on my program? This is where I landed this week, percentage. That's that week in space and time. You never have to go back to it. It's not a negative. It's not a positive. That's data. Say you hit 18 out of 21. Awesome. We landed at 85% the first week. How can we get to 86? How can we get to 90? How can we go from 18 meals to 19 meals clean following the program? And then we build consistency because we're not looking at hitting 21 meals and stopping. We're looking at how can I constantly refine this to make this a habit. So consistency just operates in the back, on the back burner, and I don't even have to worry about it. I can go find something else to refine and become even better at that. So what does it take to be consistent? You fall in love with the process. You understand that goals are finite. They're mile markers on the way up the mountain. And your life is the mountain. Consistency is built on the back of your vision. Go kill it.
We all face obstacles: burnout, self-doubt, fear of failure. No one is immune to setbacks. Welcome to Resilience Roulette, where we take on real obstacles and break them down with real strategies. Let's see what's on deck today.
All right, Christopher.
Yes, sir.
We are about to spin the wheel
Of roulette.
It's our resilience roulette. First time spinning the wheel.
We ready?
Yes. Ooh, comparing yourself with others.
All right. So how do we deal with that is what we're talking about?
Yeah.
I think everybody, unless you're dead, compares yourself to others. What a horrible, horrible way to destroy growth and process and happiness.
Yeah.
One thing that I try to remind myself, so in the weightlifting game, I have to be very careful with the stimulus I take in, because if you go on social media, everybody's bench pressing 600 fucking pounds, everybody's got a 2,000 pound deadlift, and you suck. Like, your training sucks, your physique sucks, your everything sucks. So, because there's so many good people.
Your newsfeed looks a lot different than my newsfeed. I don't have any of that on my newsfeed.
So you just have to be careful. So comparing yourself to others is a dangerous game because it is a unlimited amount of failure.
Sure.
You will always find somebody that's better than you.
Well, you know what they say. Comparison is the thief of joy.
It is, because you cannot be happy in your current level of progress. So the danger of comparing yourself to others is a negative output and negative self-image. Mm-hmm. So once I see myself becoming less impressed or less happy, I remove that stimulus altogether. I get rid of the social media for a couple days. I stop watching the videos and I go back to my logs. I'm like, well, hey man, I've actually gained 25 pounds in this or 50 pounds in this, or, I injured my knee last year. So anything I do in a squat is actually pretty fucking cool right now. Mm-hmm. Is it 700 pounds? Not yet, but it's better. So I think one thing we got to do or understand is that comparing yourself to others is useful to an extent, because you have to set a bar somewhere, and it's okay to say, I want to be like him or her. So therefore he's here, she's here, here's where I am, here's the gap in the middle. That's okay.
Yeah, I think to get inspiration for a standard, a high standard.
That's different than saying X amount of people are better than I am, and therefore I should not work any harder.
Right.
If it's stealing, if it's the thief of your joy or your activity level, fix that. Remove that from your life.
Well, and if you are going to compare yourself to others, you also have to factor in how you're different from the point of comparison.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're comparing yourself to somebody else being able to do a triathlon faster than you have to also factor in, okay, does that individual have kids? Well, you have 2 kids. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't married. They're single. They have a lot more free time, right? You're not factoring in all of that when you just compare yourself to somebody else's high performance, right?
And you can't compare yourself to professional athletes. That's all they have to do.
Right.
There was an Olympian at one point in time said, nobody with a full-time job will ever beat me. Because those with a full-time job can't train at the volume, intensity, and fervor that somebody that just trains can do.
Yeah, spot on.
Plus, we're all different filters, different life, different stimulus, different people, different everything.
Yeah.
The only way you could compare yourself to others and have it be fruitful is to say, isn't it awesome that they've reached that? That means it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then use that as motivation. Well, that's the only way I think it's useful.
And I don't know why this popped in my head, but yesterday when Nolan, my friend's 4-year-old son, was in here, he wanted to work out with us really bad. So he worked out with us. And Stephanie was like, Nolan, if you keep this up, you're going to have big muscles just like Chris. And I instantly was like, actually, if you start now at 4 years old, you're probably going to have bigger muscles than Chris by the time you get to be Chris's age. Yeah. Which, again, just goes back to, if you compare yourself, yes, right now, Chris has bigger muscles than the 4-year-old Nolan.
Well, duh. I would hope so.
Yeah.
But you're also looking at a 36-year difference.
But you start Nolan out now, comparatively, he's actually beating Chris.
Yeah.
If we were to compare age, same age to same age, it's just like, it's a stupid example, but it just goes back to, like, if you're not taking in all of the context and all of the considerations, comparison is so useless.
Yeah, there's too many variables.
Exactly.
You can't compare one variable out of 100 and say, well, see, it's different. Well, duh, it's different. There's 99 other variables we got to look at.
And so if you're going to compare yourself to yourself, but previous version of you.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, when you step into the gym or you step into training or coaching, you are literally learning how to kill the previous version of yourself. You have to beat that individual in order to progress. So comparison is just this point in time right now compared to that person at this point in time right now. That second. Yeah. That's it. Because the next second could involve them killing the previous version of themselves and becoming better. Everybody's progressing forward or progressing downward.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the comparison is the thief of joy.
Mm-hmm.
All in all, I try to avoid it altogether.
Yeah.
Give nucks to the guy that's killing it. Awesome. If you beat me, cool. If you didn't, cool. We're all in different points in time. This just worked out for me today, or it didn't.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yep.
If today's episode challenged the way you think about resilience, we want to hear about it.
Connect with us on social media at Odyssey Resilience. Let's keep the conversation going.
Keep pushing forward and getting 1% better. See you next time.